Hello again and welcome to World Talks with me, Anna Kalczyńska. Ukraine, torn by war, is struggling with the most serious corruption case since the full-scale invasion. The scandal undermines the trust in the state's leaders and, what's even more important, the financial support for Ukraine, while Russian attacks on the country intensify. Domestically, President Volodymyr Zelensky faces the biggest crisis in years. Joining me to discuss the potential scenarios ahead is Kira Rudik, Ukrainian MP, Voice Party leader. Good evening, Kira. And let me start by quoting you. You wrote on X, "Corruption in wartime is the second worst thing after defeat." Even if we can't hold elections now, we do need to reset the government. It's the only way to keep the country from sliding into political collapse. So it's a strong comment. What does the reset of the Ukrainian government mean? The parliament dismissed the energy and justice ministers on Wednesday. So who else is to blame and should be dismissed?
Hello, Anna, and thank you so much for having me. Indeed, right now the situation is very dire, especially that Russia is not stopping the attacks on us, and people feel really betrayed because we are suffering every single day from Russia. We are collecting the support for our army. We are without the electricity the good part of the day. And then to learn that president's surroundings and members of the cabinet are stealing money in the amounts that one cannot comprehend is feeling like a betrayal. The prosecutors have implied that president's surroundings is involved, and they have provided the proofs that two ministers are involved. This is why today in the parliament we have dismissed those two ministers, but that's obviously not enough. According to our constitution, during the wartime, we cannot hold elections, neither parliamentary nor presidential. But there needs to be a reset, a revamp. And what we actually can do, we can have a new government. And it should not be just two ministers who are sent home. We should form a new parliamentary coalition and go ahead and get the government that will represent all the pro-Ukrainian political powers, and that will be having more trust than this current government, and that will continue working for Ukrainian people and try to stabilize situation with supplying our military, with the international support, and will have the government will be able to operate, that President Zelensky will be able to lean on instead of fighting this crisis as he will have when he is coming back to the country tomorrow, we suppose.
So I understand you don't want to mention any names, but the Ukrainian president is under fierce pressure to fire his powerful top aide, Andriy Yermak. The pressure to ditch Yermak poses a problem for Zelensky because it comes partly from within the ranks of his own Servant of People party. So how crucial is Yermak to Zelensky?
I'm not avoiding mentioning Andriy Yermak. He is indeed a second person in the country with the powers that were given to him by President Zelensky. And for some time it was working, especially at the very beginning of full-scale invasion. But look, it didn't work properly, because this is how we end up having, instead of a constitutional division by the powers, some people who were appointed by President Zelensky, who were not elected by anyone, who do not report to the people, who are not opening up their funds to the Anti-Corruption Bureau, and who are just working as a separate branch of state with enormous amount of powers. We simply cannot have it right now when the question is about our survival, about the country's survival. And this is why president's aid needs to go. The president office needs to be reloaded with the permissions that they always had, like to support the president. and the powers needs to go back to the parliament, because we are parliamentary presidential republic, and we need to have a proper coalition, a new government that will be working for the people and working to support our country at the time of the war. And president will be concentrated on what he is doing the best, working with our international partners, bringing aid to Ukraine. There will be much less threats that this aid will be taken away by some of his surroundings. And look, we know that this crisis is absolutely something that country at war cannot have. And President Zelensky's reaction will actually show, did he know about this, or was he covering for any of this? I really hope no. I hope that he will dismiss anybody who has a shadow of suspicion and just start clear. And we know how to do it, and this is why what we are offering in the parliament right now is to start over while there is still some trust from Ukrainian people.
So the crisis looks set to come to a head on Thursday. Tomorrow is going to be a very hard day for Zelensky. He will hold crunch meetings with government officials and members of the parliament. On the same day, Zelensky is meeting U.S. officials over the peace plan brokered by the U.S. So what are the possible scenarios, according to you? What can and what is expected to do?
I think it would be naive to think that Russia wouldn't use this crisis to put additional pressure on us and to put pressure on President Zelensky to sign something that is, or maybe not, in Ukraine's best interest. And this is why what we are offering right now is a way to stabilize and for president to have a government and a parliament that will be standing behind him so he can continue defending the country. However, we didn't see anything, we don't know anything about 28 peace plan that is supposed to appear tomorrow. But I can tell you that I'm not expecting anything positive there. President Trump and our allies were pushing Russia into a ceasefire so that they will show a sign of a goodwill. And they were not able to get any kind of a ceasefire from them. And this night, we already had yet another dreadful attack on a city of Ternopil, which is very far west and much closer to Polish and Slovakian border. So Russia is not stopping. So then what could be there in this peaceful plan if Russia is not stopping? I do not believe that that there is anything good for us there. But of course, we need to take a look first and then communicate later. This current internal crisis also shows that even if there is a peaceful plan, and even if for some reason president will tend to accept it, the parliament right now is not in a state where there is a possibility to discuss any important points before the internal crisis is solved. And the timing is obviously unfortunate, but also there are specific people who are to blame, and perhaps president should have been more careful with whom he was surrounding himself with and acting earlier rather than later.
And very shortly, the Ukrainian anti-corruption bodies NABU and SAPO have been working extensively for months on this case, as we know. But there's obviously never a good timing for announcing the results of the investigation. But how do the recent allegations affect Ukraine's efforts to secure international support, in your mind?
We understand that when you have this case in hands, you have to be very wise, and you have to ask yourself if you're doing your country any good. But having this corruption going on is a way to defeat in the war. And this is why right now the negative impact that it will have on our international image is, I think, the lesser evil than if something like this would have continued. When we are looking at these amounts of money, we are only thinking about the amount of drones and missiles that could have been bought by it, amount of money that people were gathering in their villages and sending to the front line, while those people were stealing them in the millions. And this is something that, again, absolutely unacceptable. And the rage that Ukrainian people feel is really high. This is why we are expecting that by the right actions, President Zelensky will be able to show that he was not involved in any of this and that he is ready to regain people's trust.
Well, reforms are urgently needed to demonstrate transparency to foreign partners. That's obvious, but we will discuss it later on. Kira Rudik, thank you so much. Voice Party leader, Ukrainian MP, was our guest tonight. Thank you so much, Kira, and stay safe.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching World Talks. Please stay tuned to TVP World for more news to come and other interesting conversations.